Hi, this is Ula Kaminska, and welcome to my Neurotic Mind YouTube channel. I'm a coach and mentor in my two processes, transformation of identity, and the second, grow up and regain your sovereignty. I'm also the author of the concepts and methods that I'm using while working during individual sessions online and workshops. One of the most important is my original concept of identity beliefs, the identification and transformation, and also the concept of thoughts of meaning. In this video today, I want to explore a topic that is very important and has a huge impact on our everyday life. It has a huge impact on how we perceive and experience love and how we build our relationships. So today we will be talking about emotional blackmail, but from the perspective of the person that uses this strategy. The term emotional blackmail was first used in a book in 1997 by Susan Forward, and the title of the book was Emotional Blackmail: When the People in Your Life Use Fear, Duty and Guilt to Manipulate You. And currently, since then, there is a lot of material, including books, articles, also videos, saying how to avoid being emotionally blackmailed. And this is a very important aspect, of course, because coming out of dependency, we often discover the enmeshment that we live in. We start to see how much we manipulate ourselves, how much we agree to something we don't want, and how much we are afraid to say no when we feel it. But we often miss the very important point here, that if you let yourself to be emotionally blackmailed, it's very possible that probably you are doing it sometimes to others. Because if you are being emotionally blackmailed, that means that you are not assertive. And that refers mainly to three things. First of all, that means that you don't have healthy and good strategies to fulfill your own needs and desires. Second, that you don't have good and healthy strategies to deal with someone's refusal, with someone's no, with someone's different opinion. And third, that you don't have good and healthy strategies to deal with your own frustration. And if you don't have healthy strategies, then you have dysfunctional ones. And one of them is a strategy of emotional blackmail. It is so common that most people don't even know that they use it. And what is really interesting for me, there is a lot of stuff, like I mentioned before, about how to avoid being emotionally blackmailed, but there's nothing, practically nothing, about how to stop emotionally blackmailing other people. And today we are going to take a look at how, where, and why I am emotionally blackmailing another person. So when I don't have adequate and healthy strategies, I have inadequate and unhealthy, which means dysfunctional. And what does it mean that the strategy is dysfunctional? Basically, it means that it gives a person a short-term relief. Just exactly when an addicted person takes a drug, and after this feels that very short-term relief. This short-term strategy, like taking drug or using emotional blackmail strategy, allows me to avoid the pain that I feel. So maybe for a moment, for a very short period of time, I don't have to feel that very difficult feeling that is maybe hard to bear for me. So we may say that it somehow works. But if you look at the right goal of human's life, like satisfying relationships, ability to love, you can see that these short-term strategies are distancing you from these life goals. Just exactly like taking a drug, which may feel and usually feels necessary in the moment, is ultimately dysfunctional because it takes me away from the long-term healthy life goals, like happy, fulfilling life. And this is exactly how it works with the use of emotional blackmail strategy. And here it is very important to say that emotional blackmail is a form of manipulation. And manipulation is a form of influencing a person to achieve a manipulator's goals. It is influencing other people to behave or sometimes even think in a certain way, the way I want them to. And this is dishonest behavior because manipulated person is not aware, doesn't know that someone is trying to influence him. Or in other words, that someone is simply trying to force something on him. And this is a form of abuse. So if you are emotionally blackmailing others, you are using violence, both psychological and emotional. So how does the emotional blackmail work? To understand that, we need a very important term here, which was invented by Susan Forward. She called it FOG, and FOG is standing for fear, obligation, and guilt. And this term FOG is describing the main dynamic that is happening between a person that is emotionally blackmailed and the manipulator. But also this word fog very accurately describes this confusion and lack of clarity that can occur in this interpersonal dynamic. So if you are using emotional blackmail, you are trying to induce fear, guilt, and sense of obligation in another person. And in most cases, the manipulated person doesn't know that violence is happening here, because feeling all these feelings, fear, guilt, and obligation, is under the suggestion that he is the one that hurts other person. But what is very important here is the fact that person that uses emotional blackmail sees it that way too, that this other person is doing to me a terrible, unforgivable harm. The person against whom you use emotional blackmail begins to believe that is really guilty. So emotional violence works because this person believes that has to do what other person wants him to do, and that has no right to his own feelings and needs. And isn't it sad? Isn't it tragic that the use of emotional blackmail is only possible against the person who really, really cares about you? And it is also possible only against person that experiences not stable contact with self-worth And by blackmailing this person emotionally, you don't support him. You weaken him even more. And I will give you now some examples of what kind of activities is emotional blackmail. Convincing and proving that the other person makes incorrect assessment of the reality. Always forcing consent and presenting this as a proof of love. Showing and presenting your own desires and needs as the only healthy desires and needs, showing your immaturity and the other person's desires and needs, presenting as negative, bad, immature, unhealthy. Presenting different opinions and needs of the other person, not as the expression of their personalities, but as their flaws. Questioning the motives and intentions of the other person. Seeing and presenting love as being obedient and doing what I want. Playing the role of therapist to your partner. Therapist that knows better what is in the other person. Also sometimes presenting different desires and needs of the other person as a pathology and trying to show that something is wrong with this person. When the other person wants to do something else than I do, showing it as a proof of lack of ability to love. Comparing the other person, saying, for example, you're like your dad, you're like your mom. Also looking for allies that would support my thesis about this person. If you constantly or often threaten that you would break up with this person if won't do what you want. If you're saying or suggesting in some way that you will hurt yourself maybe if this person wouldn't do what you want. If you blame the other person on a regular basis for your emotional state. If you always want more, no matter how much you get from this person. If you often ignore or not take into account other person's feelings, assuming that only your feelings are important and count. If you very often cry to force something, attention, reaction, change of mind. If you often react with anger or rage to a different opinion or needs of the other person. When you often accuse the other person that it doesn't understand you or doesn't support you, when it's not reacting exactly the way you want it to be. When you go silent for a very long time. If you often get hysterical to regain control. When you often play a role of victim, accusing the other person, that makes you suffer. And finally, very, very important, when you don't notice nearly ever how much these behaviors hurt the other person. If you somehow find yourself somewhere in the strategies, I will talk more in the next video. Why do we even use this kind of strategies that hurt another person that we love, and also the strategies hurt ourselves? Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I'm inviting you to subscribe my YouTube channel and see you next time. Bye.